The voice of U.S. Army, WTF Moments. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Everything stated on WTF Nation Radio is to be considered the opinion of the person that stated it, and not an official representation of WTF Nation Radio or U.S. Army WTF Moments.
Price does not include tax, title, or license. Some assembly required. Each item sold separately. Batteries not included. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If conditions persist, contact a physician. Individual results may vary. Keep out of the reach of children. Avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight. Keep in a cool, dark place. And
please enjoy the show. Shots. Come on, everybody, let's get into it. It's time for Friday Night Freedom. Hell yeah, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here on Friday Night Freedom. My name is Kaz. And up there is Pookie in the squarish bubble. You get a square bubble. I was told that making a geometric shape bubble is an easy thing to do. I just haven't figured out how to do that. I've got to make a transparent image and then stick you in that image and then drag you up there. I hasn't the time, I guess, to mess around with that. I did look up how to make transparent images though. So
actually pretty easy.
Holy cow! 9th day of July, everybody. We're well into the month of July. I guess it's this would be the dog days of summer now. We're entering the dog days of summer. That's the point in time like between the Independence Day holiday and Labor Day, which is what, the end of September-ish. So that's what we're beginning to be into right now, and shit's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Shit's crazy. I mean, other than what's in the news, for the last 3 days, I've been sleeping horribly. It's not just you have a bad night's rest or something like that. It's just like for 3 days in a row. And I'd go to bed at a reasonable time for an old dude, 10 o'clock or so. Like last night, I was in bed by 9:45. I forced myself to stay awake till around 10. My go-to-bed ritual is to wrap up all of my Words with Friends games and then, stick the phone in the charger and go to sleep. What's been happening is I'd fall asleep like boom, immediate. And I'd sleep and it would just be a beautiful deep sleep, and my bed would just like give me this big hug, and it was great and it felt great. The temperature was perfect in the room and everything was great. So it feels like, and then I wake up and it feels like I got an entire night's rest. So I kind of roll over to see how much time I have left to sleep, and it comes to be that I've only been asleep for an hour.
Those are like the epic power naps is what that is.
And that's all it was, because I would then lay in bed. So let's just say, for instance, and to keep numbers round, I would go to sleep at 10. So I'd wake up at 11, an hour after the fact, thinking that I slept all night. My body feeling like it slept all night. And then just kind of, what am I going to do? I'm watching, the ceiling fan's doing his job up on the ceiling, and every once in a while the air conditioner kicks on, and there's no noises or nothing like that. It's just, I go to sleep, an hour later, boom, I'm awake, and it's really beginning to piss me off. So last night, the same thing happened. Went to bed at around 10, got up at 11. Eyes wide open till probably 2 or 3 in the morning. And in between this time, I would get up, I'd read books. I read philosophy books and stuff like that. So nothing that's really going to screw with my mind too bad. But then I'd fall asleep. I don't know exactly when I'd fall back asleep, but I woke up at the regular time today. Today was my day off, so no alarm was set. So I was just going to sleep until my body didn't feel like sleeping anymore. But before I woke up, I had the craziest dream. And it stuck with me all day. And our social media folks are like, hey, dude, what are you going to talk about today? I'm like, dude, I got to talk about this dream. It's been bothering me because this dude, I haven't been active duty in 25 years. Okay. So I had a dream. I had this dream that I was back in the Army. And I took notes. I took notes and I put this down on paper because I thought I would forget it, but I don't. This has stuck with me throughout the entire day. It's almost troublesome. So I had a dream that I was in the Army again. I was in a large building that resembled a barracks. I walked into what apparently was my room. There were people in there, which I always lived in the barracks. I did 9 years in I was always in the barracks. I never lived off post. I tried to live off post, but that was just too much of a hassle. So I just stayed in the barracks. The room was full of people, and I didn't recognize anybody. Okay. Everyone was preparing for a battalion run. Okay. No big deal. Battalion runs happen all the time. But it was going to be followed by a barracks inspection and a uniform inspection in your duty uniform, by the command sergeant major. No problem. Inspections happen all the time. It wasn't a big deal. So I started asking questions. Okay, what's the uniform for the battalion run? What time's formation? And no one could give me the formation's in 45 minutes and here's the uniform. So I put everything on. I put my entire PT costume on. The shorts underneath the long pants and the jacket and the shirt and the hat, and I brought gloves. But I didn't know exactly where to go. The next thing I knew, I'm looking for my duty uniform that we're supposed to get inspected on. and I couldn't find a serviceable uniform. It was weird. This is what I'm asking: what time formation? What's the uniform? No one had an answer. I threw on all of my PTs, and I said I wanted to check on my uniform of the day, and I opened up my wall locker, and all of my uniforms were jacked up looking. They were like beyond the duffel bag drag. That's it. So I woke up from the dream. And I was saying to myself, I woke up and I was saying these words, well, fuck. And that's how I woke up this morning. That's how my day started.
That is not a dream. That is a nightmare of epic proportion.
I don't know. I was so confused this morning, man. I was so confused.
That's a good way to start your day at that point. Just
it was
baffled,
really
confused.
It was really weird. I'm looking at my uniforms and there's like pink shit on it. It's like back in the day when we used to wear BDUs, you would you'd starch your uniforms, lightly starch them. Sometimes, if you wanted to be a badass, you'd send them to the cleaners and they'd come back with that razor edge on the legs and everything. But you can go and buy spray starch at the PX. But there were people that would like scorch. They would put too much starch in the water. There would be a bad ratio, or something, and they would actually burn their uniforms. They would scorch their uniforms. It was like that, but the scorch marks were pink. They weren't black or brown. They were pink. So it was no, that's been messing with me all day.
Pretty sure that would mess with me pretty well. I've had some dreams that have popped up out of like old army, like coming like, back old army days like that. And I'll wake up and I'm just kind of like to making sure I'm not in that.
You start slapping yourself in the face. You start slapping yourself in the face and it's like, oh yeah. I got this thing going on here. Yeah, man, it's thrown me for a loop all day. I don't know. William White keeps telling me to just shave my head. I'm not shaving my head, dude. Not for a while. I still got hair up there. It is the angle of if I had the camera up a little bit higher, you'd see. I do have a forehead. It's still 4. My brother, on the other hand, has a 5 head, but he's a cop and he wears a patrol cap. He wore a patrol cap for almost 20 years. So yeah, he's going bald.
Yeah, I'm debating on just cutting it all off. Say screw it. I got the trimmers and everything. I'm just waiting to do it.
I heard mullets are coming back.
I ain't thinking. I'm just gonna go just straight bald again because I don't know. It's just easier.
So I had to get that off my chest. It feels like I needed to talk about that, so that's why I'm talking about my stupid Army dream. Just thought it was weird. I haven't been an active duty soldier for 25 years. I haven't been in any way associated with working directly for the military since about 2011 in Iraq. So I've had a good amount of time. I've had 10 years away. So there's no reason I should have you're back on active duty dream. But I thought I'd unload that on you, and thank you for listening. Good thing about that is I don't have to pay y'all $85 an hour for counseling.
It's free therapy.
It's free therapy. So let's talk about some guests that we got coming up. And in the next 2 weeks, we got some pretty outstanding guests. Next week, I think what this is by our front desk people, which is Spanky and Ship and Mom, is I think they're trying to actively change me into a country music fan, because we have a country music guest next week. Her name is Peyton Hoey. She's going to be on the show next week to talk about her new stuff. And I say new stuff. She looks like she's in high school. I don't know how much old stuff she would have. But Peyton Hoey will be joining Friday Night Freedom to talk about her latest single called Freedom. I've listened to it 100 times, and it's really cool. It is a really cool, it's a heartfelt song. It's really awesome. So she's just not just a random a country artist. She's been voted New Country Female Entertainer of the Year and Traditional Country Female Entertainer of the Year. So she's got some chops, man. She's got some real chops. And another, our caliber of guests is increasing. So we get guests like Peyton's going to be coming on. And we've had just I think Pulp Culture Warriors pulling down like all of the big name guests. Check this out. On the 20th of July, actor, director, producer Jonathan Frakes will be joining CQ and Radar on Pop Culture Warrior to talk about his latest projects in Hollywood. Everybody knows Jonathan Frakes. He's had many great accomplishments in Hollywood over the past 44 years. But he's most recognized, at least by people in my generation, our generation, as Commander William T. Riker of the Starship Enterprise. Number one. So he's going to be on the 20th. So that's awesome, and we're getting some really great guests.
That's pretty epic, actually.
That is really damn epic. That is really epic. So join us on the 20th and on the 16th for our badass guests. Hopefully I can get my computer to work very goodly, so Peyton can be on the screen. We tried to get when we got hooked up with shit, I'm drawing a blank here. One of our last guests, trying to get him on the video, and I could see him on video, but I couldn't get his video to broadcast. So and he he played music for us, and he's just a badass dude. I play his music all the time. What's his name?
You said I can't remember what I ate for breakfast today, so I'm not going to be any help.
Got it. Okay. Derek Jones, for Christ's sake. So anyway, I couldn't get it to work for him. I figured out how to get it to work, but I need some cooperation from the guests. So they have a very, very, you don't even have to be an IT person. You just open up your video conferencing app, you activate a certain amount of things, and then we can see you. Everybody can see you. So that's what we got coming up in the next couple of weeks. Now, hopefully nobody gets hacked. A lot of that. A lot of that. Hacking and ransomware and stuff. That seems to be all the rage right now. Last week, as we were getting off the show, there were, I of course, sign off and I put the podcast together, and then I read some news afterwards just to start accumulating stories for the next week, because it's kind of like a weekly stream of consciousness type thing. We'll do some little news and interaction and commentary on things that happen around the world. And I saw that there was a hack, another hack, kind of like the hack that happened with the pipeline that kind of drove gas prices through the damn roof for a good few weeks. They're still pretty high. I think we're down. Yeah. We're still down. I think 289 or something was what we were seeing, and now we're down to like 263. So it hasn't changed. Before that hack, we were down to. We were probably down to $2 a gallon.
It was $1.80 a gallon here at the beginning of the year. We're pushing almost $3 now here.
Goodness, how was the weather? You guys got dumped on, like a lot.
Well, it wasn't that bad. The storm came through, and it came through early morning, and apparently there was a tornado warning in my area. There was a touchdown, I guess. And,
but you were sleeping, so no big deal.
I was asleep. No big deal. Your phone's supposed to put out alert messages and stuff like that, but no one in my household got one until about 10 in the morning. So like 5 hours after it happened. I mean that really helps.
That's good. I hope everybody on the East Coast made it out well. I didn't hear of any fatalities, so that's good news.
I think one person down in Florida died.
Was it one person?
That's what I think is what I heard. Don't quote me on this. I'm just. My brain watching news all day, I see things.
Yeah, William White says that Texas is getting more rain than it's ever seen, and it's bad. Along the Gulf Coast, yeah, they've been getting just pounded. A lot of disturbances in the Gulf, and it's just like it kind of washes over, Corpus and even Brownsville and way down in South Texas.
Yeah,
they've been getting really wet. Here, and I get really upset and I get pissed off at meteorologists because they just say, okay, 10% chance of rain. Okay, that's nothing. That's like maybe a stray shower here and there. It's pretty much rained every single day for at least 3 or 4 minutes. And not just okay, here's a storm coming. It's just, hey, this little storm decided to pop up, dumping a bunch of rain on you when you're in the middle of trying to barbecue something or cut your grass or wash your car. And then it goes away, and then it's just hot and shitty for the rest of the afternoon.
That's how it is in Florida. We call them down there popcorn storms because you'll watch them on the map. They'll just pop and then disappear real quick.
Yeah.
You just be minding your own business. You could be like barbecuing and watching your neighbor getting rained on as the storm's walls coming past, and you won't get a drop of rain on your your property, but it's nuts. Yeah.
So my daughter was in New York City and in Brooklyn and in the Bronx last week. She took a vacation, her and her boyfriend and some friends. Her boyfriend's a Yankees fan, and then his best friend is a Red Sox fan. So they went out and saw what do they call that? Not the battle in the Bronx. What do they call it? It's when the Boston Red Sox play the Yankees, like the Subway Series. The Subway Series.
Yeah.
So they were supposed to go to the Friday night game. The Friday night game got rained out. So they got rain checks to go to the Sunday game, which was what? Independence Day. So she spent, and I'm really glad that I took her to baseball games, here in Arlington at the Ranger Stadium. She kind of got an interest, or she's familiar with baseball. And I can't say that she likes it, but she has a good time while she's there. We went to tons and tons of Ranger games. Fort Worth Cats used to play right in downtown Fort Worth. I'd take them to the Cats games all the time. So we always had a really, really good time watching baseball. So her and her boyfriend decided to, buy tickets. They flew out, stayed in Chicago one night, stayed in New York City. I want to say they're there for like 5 days. They left Monday. They left Monday morning. But she had a really good time. They went and saw the 9/11 memorial. They saw some sights. They ate lots and lots of food. They drank some beers, and they had a really, really good time. But there's like tons. Have you seen the news coverage today? Like people swimming out of New York City subways and like bridges under. And that's what my daughter said. She goes, "That's so gross."
It's disgusting.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, there was apparently there was a torrential downpour because of that hurricane that blew up the coast. New York City got a lot of precipitation. There's nowhere for the water to go, as in anywhere. This could happen in any city. The infrastructure just can't keep up with that much rain at one time. So underneath bridges were flooding, the subways flooded, and it's just nasty. You're going to need some like a couple of rounds of tetanus shots to make sure you're okay, man. That's bad.
Plague and stuff, man.
So and then that dude got shot. That Marine veteran got shot, or some guy running around with a damn gun just pop, 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 and hit a freaking Marine. Some teenager. Hey, William White, you are on probably the radio Facebook page. If you go to U.S. Army WTF Moments Facebook page, there's quite a few other people, but we can see what you're talking about. So anyway, we're talking. Somehow, I talked about the hacking. Hacking seems to be a profitable business. Hacker group behind an international crime spree that played out over the 4th of July. This is what happened when we signed off last week. This was going down. Over the weekend, they locked up more than 1 million individual devices and are demanding $70 million in Bitcoin to set them all free. Now, either they don't know what they got, or their math is really bad, or they're just freaking amateurs. The gang called Revel. I don't know if it's evil.
Are evil.
Are evil. Okay. Or
yes.
They are responsible for hacking the JBS Meatpacker people, and they briefly halted their little meatpacking operation across North America. But this attack is the potential scope of this attack is what is called by cybersecurity experts as unprecedented. What did you call them? I think
R-Evil.
R-Evil, like A-R-E-E-V-I-L.
Yeah,
R-Evil.
R-Evil, yes.
So they began their spree 1 week ago by compromising Kaseya, which is a software company that helps companies manage their basic software updates. Since many of Kaseya's customers are companies that manage internet services for other businesses, the number of victims grew quickly. Instead of locking an individual organization, R-Evil this time locked each victim's computer as a standalone target and initially asked for 45,000 dara each to unlock each one. That's a lot of money. President Joe Biden said he has directed the full resources of the government toward investigating the problem.
This is what, the fourth or fifth major one that's happened since he's taken presidency?
This is the third one that I know of that's happened this year. Maybe there's been more. There's the pipeline, JBS Meatpacking, and then this one.
Okay, and they're all been from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
So the Swedish grocery chain, it's spelt Coop, but it might be pronounced Co-op. It's the largest known victim, and it was forced to close most of its 800 stores all day on Saturday. Its registers are all controlled online by Visma Escom, a Kaseya customer, and it locked up and it rendered every terminal unusable. Exactly how many systems have been infected is unknown, though its number is likely sizable. The cybersecurity firm Huntress, which is helping Kaseya's response, is aware of more than 1,000 individual businesses that have been affected so far. That is just pervasive. That's huge. That is very huge. I mean, I don't like to give hackers credit for shit, but this was either this is dumb luck. Is this
legit?
Is this dumb luck? Or did they get lucky?
They know what they're doing. No, these guys know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
You think so?
I know
they know what they're doing.
The part behind it was they hit that specific software provider or software management company, which I don't know why on earth you wouldn't just hire your own IT department to take care of that. Let's just push the cost onto someone else, I guess. Okay. At the risk of this crap happening, but no, when they hit that and it spread out the way it did, that was the luck on it. That was the lucky side on it. They probably knew what would happen. They just didn't know what would be affected.
Or they wouldn't know. It's like, it's that drop in the pond, or you throw a stone in the pond and the waves go outward. I don't think they realized how pervasive their intrusion was. And I'll get to that in a minute. It says they've compromised more than 1 million devices in a spree that is impossible to prove given how few victims are actually speaking publicly about the fact, and no government or company has a database of everyone who was hit. But that number is plausible. 1 million customers.
Stop outsourcing your IT. That's all I got to say.
Hire
internally. Hire internally. Do all your stuff internally, because if you start outsourcing, shit like this happens.
So are you saying hire internally and then maintain your own servers?
Maintain your own stuff. It's not that hard unless you're a small business, and even then, a small business. I mean, you hit me? I run mom and pop's t-shirt print shop somewhere in Kansas somewhere, and you hit me and lock my computers out. I'm just going to wipe everything and that'd be the end of it. It's not going to hurt me that bad.
It's likely that you wouldn't be a target either. No one's going to target mom and pops. They're going to target this bigger company that has millions of customers, or actually millions of endpoints.
And then they have the resources to be able to maintain. Like, how are you going to have your entire checkout system, your register system linked into something like that, knowing that if this happens, you've lost millions of dollars to that. No?
You know, and thinking it from a business perspective, if I had several stores in 3 or 4 different states, I would probably want to centralize an accounting server just to make accounting a lot easier, instead of waiting for a batch file every 3 days so I can crunch numbers and see how my business is doing. So imagine having hundreds of stores or thousands of stores.
That's, this is why outsourcing, I think, is just a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. A lot of companies started doing it, like with their customer service. It's cheaper to outsource to, I don't know, Taiwan or somewhere overseas. And it's just bad practice at that point, huh?
So here's the last paragraph of the story, and this is kind of why I think that they really didn't know what they had. It's like you're fishing, and it's like, I think we're going to need a bigger boat type of scenario. Regardless of the actual number of victims, it's extremely difficult to imagine victims banding together to jointly pay $70 million. Says Alan Liska, who is an analyst at a cybersecurity firm called Recorded Future. 1 million victims that each pay $45,000 would be a profit of $45 billion, he noted. They're lowballing themselves at $70 million. And that's an interesting take. And I almost read that as an encouragement for them to, don't give up anything.
It's another thing too that I find kind of agitating at this point is the way our media just goes, it's the Russians, it's the Russians, it's the Russians, and they don't mention like all the espionage and hacking that's going from China and all these other countries like Iran and stuff. They're actively hacking us constantly, and I mean, it's just as soon as it happens, it's automatically Russia at this point. I mean, like a scapegoat at this point.
I think it would be a very good thing for companies. Every company, all companies, doesn't matter how big, like Lockheed or whatever. I think everybody should learn the way that people are conducting their business to be able to fall back to an analog way of doing things.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
We Americans,
yes.
And I think, hey, Bailey, what's going on? We as Americans, and I think everybody now, with computers and making things, easier. And I say that in quotes.
We rely too much on the cloud is what it is.
It's so easy. It's so easy with computerized everything. If you took your accounting firm and said, okay, we're going to, every so many days, we're going to back everything up and we're going to print this shit out. We're going to have all this crap on paper just so we have a record in case of something like this happening. Or aviation companies. Everything is computerized in aviation companies. We don't keep paper of anything. Everything is digital.
Well, if you follow proper networking procedures, this is like a basic security plus exam thing. They call them hot sites and cold sites, but they're completely separated from your stuff, but they're pretty much a backup. The cold site's pretty much like it gets backed up it's not connected to the internet, but it gets backed up every month or 3 months or something like that. So if something like that happens, like this, your stuff gets locked out on you. You just go, okay, well, fuck you. I'm going to wipe everything and go to my cold site, activate my cold site. Boom, I'm back up and running again within what, like 3-4 hours maybe at the max?
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, it's everything happens the way that it's happening now, but you're actively storing a backup of what you're doing in a site that's not live and is probably air gapped. If something catastrophic were to happen, you're like,
you could shut your main system down and boot your hot site back up like that on its fly. And okay, cool. I'll just wipe all my stuff. I have all my data backed up. I lost 3 hours of productivity times how many man hours were working during that 3 hours. You get what I'm saying?
That's a damn good idea. I think one thing my company does is you can't plug in a personal device to any of the computers.
Practice.
You can't plug
Very
in
good
any
practice.
device. If you want to use a device like a flash drive, it's got to be an encrypted flash drive, and it has to be approved by the company. It has to go through IT, and then you can buy your own. It'll go through our ID department, and then it'll be reissued to you, and then authorized to use on only certain devices. All of my labs are air gapped, no connection to the outside world, and I think all companies. Maybe not so much the small one because they're not typically the targets, but the large ones, yeah.
Especially if you're working on proprietary engineering information. That's a target right there. People love to get their hands on that stuff.
So what about the electrical grid? What about the computers that are controlling the water flow through the Hoover Dam?
That should be on a system all by itself at that point.
Yeah.
That shouldn't even be connected to the internet. It should be on its own internal network at that point. It's this whole, I can control the Hoover Dam with my cell phone thing. I don't understand it. Like people putting smart locks on their houses and stuff like that. Oh, I forgot to lock my door. And they go, well, it's not like I can't just hack your smart lock and open your door now.
Never, ever.
Analog everything.
When I started,
it's kind of like Texas. With the Nest thing, when ERCOT or whatever was talking about, hey, you need to drop your stuff down. A lot of people with those Nests were getting locked out of their systems, and their temperature was getting shot up into the 80s, and they had no control over it until ERCOT said, okay, drop it down.
Yeah, so it was did we talk about that last week? I think maybe we mentioned that.
We kind of skimmed over it, but the more I started reading into it, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like Nest, which is a Google company, was working with ERCOT to lock. So why do you need your thermostat hooked up to the internet?
So you could. I mean, if I did it, I have a remote start on my car, and when it's 100 degrees outside, like 10 minutes,
makes sense.
10 minutes before I leave, when I'm putting in my time for the day or whatever, go to my little app, which is super convenient on my phone, start the car. Air conditions blasting. It's 70 degrees in that car when I get into it. That's really convenient.
Just imagine if I was just some 15-year-old kid messing around, just being a little asshole, and I figured out, hey, how to hack this thing. I turned everyone's cars on while they're at work or throughout the day, and then they come out and they have no gas in their cars. This is like malicious things that can happen with this stuff.
Or you see like a managed, what a managed switch is. It's a big Ethernet switch, but it's a managed switch, and you can get into it. A lot of times, people never change. IT departments don't change.
No.
They don't change the password, which is PASSWORD. Or admin.
Or something stupid like that. Yeah. Or Tor, or root.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I know them all on the top of my head. Yeah.
I do have a camera system in my lab that is air gapped. You can never hack into it, but its password is root. But I've got like 85 cameras that we have to manage, and you can't have a separate password for all of those.
I guess it simplifies it, yeah.
But
if it's not on the network, network and only one person has access to it, or two people have access to it, then it's no big deal at that point.
You can't get into it, and if someone goes to the infrastructure cabinet that we have, and if you start poking, if I don't know you, or if you're not a lab person, if you're just an engineer or someone who just comes and does testing, and you start poking around on that computer, I'm going to know it, and I'm going to kneecap you. You're not. That's not where your job is. Your job is sitting at that. It is my system. I get in trouble for that too. And I did this when I worked for like mom and pops doing aircraft modifications and stuff. When a customer would come in and they would say, okay, these are the avionics systems that I want, and these are the upgrades that I want. I would be the crew chief on that aircraft. That becomes my helicopter. That's my helicopter until you sign that piece of paper to take that helicopter off our hands and you pay your bill. That's my helicopter. And I get in trouble because I take a lot of personal ownership of everything that I work on.
You should, because if something happens to it, guess who's responsible for it?
It's my license that gets yanked.
How this works? Yeah, it's like that's the way the military and army works. I'm signing hand receipts. If you want to borrow something, sign a hand receipt. Here, I've made people sign hand receipts for freaking pens before because I'm petty like that.
Dude, when people want to borrow tools, I've got some pretty unique tools, and some of them are custom made that I use on a regular basis for certain things. If they want to borrow something, I tell them to give me your car keys. And they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, give me your car keys. That way I know I'm going to get this tool back. You know, our tool crib, our tool room has a chit system, and only certain people are issued chits. So if I want to go and sign a tool out, a specialty tool or a very expensive tool, a spectrum analyzer or something like that, I've got to give them a chit that comes back to me. It's got my number on it. So yeah, if you want to borrow something from me in my lab, guess
Tools
what?
ain't cheap.
You're gonna give me your car keys or your badge or something.
ID something.
Or give me $100.
No, yeah, got $100 deposit. Yeah, but see, someone walks off with a $500 tool, and you that ain't gonna work.
But I've got their car keys. Yeah, right. Car keys usually work a lot.
You ain't going home until I get my tool back.
If you need it for more than one day, that's fine. Come back tomorrow and get it. I'll be happy to give it to you. Just give me your car keys. I'm very possessive with the things that I work on. Maybe to a fault.
That's an engineer's thing, though, man. I'm telling you, every engineer I know is like that. Even mechanics are like that, though. It's just, you got to be like that. Like I did IT, I did network maintenance, and for a long time, and my tools were expensive. I had fiber optic beaver tails.
Oh yeah.
You know, yeah, them things weren't cheap. As little and tiny as that thing was, I think it was like a $200 tool, and people would be like, "Let me borrow your beaver tail." I'd be like, "Get the hell out of here! You're not touching this."
I don't know. We got any mechanics in the audience here? Want to chime in on that before I move on to the next the next subject, which is closely related to this.
Oh yeah, knock 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 knock.
Who is it?
Who's knocking?
We're here from the government. We're here from the government. We want to help you.
Oh, don't make me nervous like that.
Open the door, Chris. We know you're in there. We heard the toilet flush.
You damn near gave me a heart attack.
What's over your right shoulder there, next to the door?
That'd be a good old Mossberg 500 series.
Dude, even if I'm invited, I'm not gonna knock on your door. I'm gonna like throw rocks at the roof until you come out to see what the hell's happening. And I'm like, this is just me, cause.
Yeah. That stays there
Until it's needed, right?
Exactly.
So back to the. You're bound to hear that maybe sometime soon. Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra said on Thursday, which was yesterday, that it was, quote, and this is a quote from him, absolutely the government's business to know which Americans haven't been vaccinated yet against the coronavirus. Responding to criticisms of the Biden administration's planned door knock campaign to encourage unvaccinated Americans to inoculate themselves, Becerra told CNN that the government has had to spend, as his quote, spend trillions of dollars to try to keep Americans alive during this pandemic. So it's absolutely continuing the quote. So it's absolutely the government's business, as it is the taxpayers' business, and we have to continue to spend money to try to keep people from contracting COVID and help reopen the economy. So
everything that was said just there just made me mad.
It should. I think it should. I think it should. Oh, everyone's chiming in. You know how we have that little bit of a delay? People are chiming in with their they're a diesel mechanic. Jared says he's a heavy wheeled vehicle mechanic. Yeah, dude. You got some you have a damn good skill set is what you got. I hate working on diesel engines.
All the respect in the world for the mechanics, but I love watching mechanics bitch about engineers, man. I just love it.
You know what we have, it's kind of a policy in my lab, is if you want to engineer something that we work on, you're going to be a technician that works on the things that we engineer.
Actually smart.
It's really cool because we have some very, very good engineers now that within their design, they think about, okay, if I were to work on this, how would I do that? And we've got mechanical engineers and electrical engineers that do design stuff for us. And they get their marching orders from on high, and it's like, hey, we need to build something that does this, or we need to test this thing that does that thing. So these folks that we hire, they have to have been technicians in the past, and they also have to have been technicians on the things that we build. So that's really a good thing. I think that every organization that engineers crap ought to be able to do that, or they should do that. It makes you a better engineer. I think it makes you a better engineer if you've been a technician.
I 100% agree with that. You know, like working on some vehicles and trying to take the transmission pan off, and you gotta do some weird mathematical equation to get it off. The engineer was like, "Oh, this will work. There's just a millimeter of distance between this and that to get it through there. It'd be perfect." Yeah. Okay.
Every time I get a fucked up looking design with the way that they want things put together, I'm like, hey, I'll bet you lunch that this shit fit on your computer. Because we do 3D modeling and everything, so all physics involved, this ought to fit in there, or this ought to do that. But that's why we test stuff, because we're in the business of breaking shit, and that's what we do. And that's what we do. We test the outer reaches of the abilities of the equipment that we're designing.
Prototyping. Ooh.
It's awesome. It is really awesome.
I'd love to be able to do that.
So anyway, back to the
COVIDian witnesses.
COVIDian witnesses. That's a good one. I was thinking it's like the VidVax Gestapo.
Oh, okay. Whatever.
So this government official, our Health and Human Services guy, Becerra, said that, quote, people need to be educated so officials could dispel rumors about the vaccine, which has proven to be highly effective in driving down cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. According to the CDC, nearly 56% of the adult population has been fully vaccinated, and 67% have gotten at least one dose of the coronavirus vaccine. Citing concerns over the Delta variant, we're up to Delta now. I saw
Lambda now. Actually,
it is Lambda. I saw Lambda. I haven't seen anything between Delta and Lambda though. So this may be like a whole different type of strain. So they just kind of
10 years from now they're going to be naming them like hurricanes. So don't worry about it.
So there's a White House press secretary, Circleback Psaki, says this week that a door-to-door push is designed to be educational and to inform people in less vaccinated pockets of the country about where to get the shot and address their concerns about the safety and efficacy of the vaccine, adding that it's not up to the federal government to mandate vaccines. They just want to know about it?
It's government overreach, 100%. They're spending money. They think that what did you say? We spent $1 trillion to keep you alive.
Well, he didn't have a bottom line. He said trillions, as if a trillion wasn't enough. It's trillions with an S.
Like the average human being could not process that amount of money. Your brain wouldn't be able to wrap around it.
It's very difficult. It is difficult. especially trading in cryptocurrency that is 0.0000008.
Even in fractions, it makes it real hard when you start talking. Not what is it? 0.99 equals 1. You tell me that.
Yeah, 0.99 equals 1. And I was even kind of thrown for a loop. I'm like, hey, when we hit $1, I'm going to have all these dollars. I'm like, no. You got to place that decimal point. 0.1 is 1 cent. 1.0 is $1. It's crazy. I've stopped looking at it. I've stopped looking at my totals and my accruals.
Oh, I'm just holding now at this point.
Yeah.
You know, we're in the winter. Let's call this the long winter. What was that that TV show? Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. Winter is here. Coming. Winter is. Yeah, well, this is the winter. Get over it, and it'll go away eventually.
So now we've got these omnipotent leaders, and this is crazy. I understand the push to try to keep people safe, but it ought to be their choice. Hey, we've developed a vaccine. It has a 96% chance of preventing you from contracting coronavirus. Great. Let me do some research. Let me read. Let me see what some of the side effects are. Let me give it a couple of months. And this was my take on it was I'm going to give it a year, and then we're going to see what kind of side effects presented themselves.
Has the FDA actually finally approved this, or is it still on like emergency?
It's still an emergency authorization. It hasn't been.
Yeah, I will not get it until it's completely. Even though, as much as I hate the FDA and as much as I don't trust the government, I'm going to hold off on it until it's gone through the whole process.
What I think what we need to do is like for the FDA, what kind of fallback would the FDA have of approving this? Let's say, and I'm just throwing these things out. The FDA approves the Pfizer vaccine. I'm only saying Pfizer because I got the Pfizer vaccine. So the FDA throws their full faith and confidence behind the Pfizer vaccine and gives them the rubber stamp. What happens in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years if someone has bad enough side effects? Either they've conceived a child that had birth defects. What kind of fallback comes back on the FDA? What I would like to see, if whoever the approving authority is, I would like for them to, this is their decision. It's like an FAA inspector. If they do an approval on an STC, which is it's a supplemental type certificate, which means that you do work on an aircraft that it's not a normal thing. And I've done several of these, like Casas Bahia down in South America in Brazil wanted a landing camera put on the nose of their aircraft. Well, there wasn't one available, so we made one up and we installed it. We called the FAA in. We did several flights in high light and low light conditions, in rain, and the FAA inspector says, you have a good design. This is good. Here is your STC number. So now anybody who owns a helicopter of this type can get this STC. You guys own the STC, the supplemental type certificate for this modification for this aircraft. So if anything were to go wrong because of that camera, that FAA inspector, it's going to fall back on him because he approved it. As long as the work is performed the way that we have documented it, it is safe.
It protects you as the designer, pretty much.
Yes.
And it gives a buffer. That's what I'm saying. Like right now, like people are like, oh, running to get this vaccine, not realizing that, hey, if 3 years down the road, everyone starts developing like brain tumors from it or cancer of some sort.
Brain tumors, I mean, Johnson
go against the government now. You can't sue anyone. They're these companies have washed their hands of it because this is an emergency approval. That's what scares the hell out of me.
And there's tons of people, even through approved things like the anthrax vaccine, with our service members going overseas, especially during the first Gulf War, having really horrible side
yes.
effects or
the first round of anthrax.
Very horrible health issues that have been attributed to receiving that vaccine.
It's just crazy. I mean, I don't want to put the tinfoil hat on, but how quickly people forget that our government, what was it, the Tzatziki experiments, the syphilis experiments. This literally happened, and people just they don't want to accept it for some reason. I just don't understand it.
Are you talking about the
syphilis experiments?
The blankets for Indians?
No, this was they went into Georgia, and they tested it out on African American males. They injected them with syphilis, pretty much. Didn't tell them, hey, this is a study. You can go on Wikipedia and look it up. We're doing a study. We'll pay you so much a month. And they injected them, and they just watched what syphilis would do to someone, just to study, pretty much. And these studies continued up to the 70s, I think. But it wound up killing a bunch of people because they were like, "Dad, we got the cure for it, but let's not cure them. See how far we can take it." And that's it. It was nuts.
Same experiments were done on children during the United States' nuclear awakening. They were trying to see what the effects of radiation were.
Radiation, yes.
So they had kids. It was really horrible. They had kids that they're like, okay, you're terminal. Just because of the disease that you have, we're going to inject you with this plutonium. I'm just saying that because and then we're going to see what happens. So these kids suffered horribly. These adults with terminal diseases suffered horribly because we were just testing. Laws have changed. I don't know if the practices have changed. I like to have a better attitude on research as far as medical research goes, but I don't know. You don't know until and that's why we I'm
just going and that's off why, of the government's track record. That's it.
And that's why we experiment on animals, which it kind of sucks. I mean, to inject a cute monkey or a bunny or whatever.
You know, those mice and rabbits and stuff were bred to be like genetically, like for certain genetic purposes, so they can test certain things. They're more prone to get cancer or more prone to be obese. You know, they have like patent numbers on these, like the genetic codes of these mice and stuff like that. It's crazy, but they were bred for that purpose.
So now the biohackers have a job.
Yeah.
So anyway, someone comes.
Mr. Pinky, we need to share some information with you regarding that vaccine.
I can't do a good shotgun sound. Clack, clack.
Clack, clack. Nobody says you have to open the door. And I don't. I mean, someone rings my doorbell.
It's illegal for me to rack a shotgun behind a closed door.
Unless I'm ordering a Domino's pizza. Like tonight, I ordered a chicken bacon ranch sandwich from Domino's. I expected the doorbell to ring. And I've got motion detectors and my cameras out there, so I know who's coming in front of my house walking up my doorstep. Just because someone knocks on your door doesn't mean you have to answer it. They're not going to come there with like needles and stuff wanting to jab you. From everything that I've read, this is simply just an educational thing. It's like a Jehovah's Witness coming to your door, explaining to you how good the vaccine is.
Okay, I got just thought of something.
Okay. Shoot.
We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Okay.
We're going to send people door to door to educate. What if one of those people is infected? It turns into this massive super spreader in a community.
Because you never know if they're infected or not. Maybe they're asymptomatic.
I'm just saying.
My practice is if I'm not expecting anybody, I'm not opening the door. You can ring that doorbell until your finger falls off. I'm not going to answer it. I don't answer the door. My neighbor Chris will come over. He lives 2 doors down from me. He's the coolest motherfucker ever. If he doesn't announce himself, like, hey, he doesn't send me a text, or if he doesn't say, hey, Kaz, I'm coming over, he can ring that door all day long. I'm not going to answer the door. And I'm not going to pick up my phone and say, okay, I'm going to look at my little Ring camera and say, oh, there you are. Oh, it's Chris. I'm going to go answer the door. No. If I'm not expecting anybody, I'm not opening the door. And that's probably a good practice.
I just can't wait till they get out to rural America with this. If they're actually planning on doing it like rural, like country, like Appalachian, you know? Yeah, like you know, like said angry hillbillies start yelling in the woods and stuff.
You know what? It's interesting that you mentioned that because I was thinking the exact opposite. Let's go down into the inner city boroughs of New York or the Bronx or in Compton, California.
Chicago, that like outside Chicago and stuff like that. Yeah, I got you. I get what you're saying on that.
Try to walk up inside of a Section 8 housing development, knocking on doors, asking people if they've had their inoculation.
Rapping on the door like the police.
Oh, gosh. Bullets are going to be flying from the inside out. I think more so than in any country house.
Even think of it on that. I know how my country folk are, and we don't take well on people trespassing on property. You know, especially if you live a quarter mile off the road, someone comes following up.
It also helps. I was going to say it also helps if you live off the paved road. Well, it's like a census worker. I think census workers kind of go through the same thing. You know, they have to. I watched a movie called 436. Where the population of this town was constantly 436 people. Always. Baby was born, someone has to volunteer to commit suicide. That kind of weird stuff.
Oh, okay. I was about to say I thought this was like a documentary, like a real town.
No. It was a story of this census worker that goes to this town because oddly enough, the history of this town, the population has always been 436 since the 1800s. So he just went to find out why. It was a good movie. I like the horror movies. It wasn't horrifying. It was a good movie. It was a good story. Dude, it's like 2 minutes after 8. I didn't get through. Let me see how many.
We can get back to it. Yeah, let's get it back.
Oh gosh, I got a good story. Okay, I got a railgun story. Railguns.
I love railguns.
I can tell you're getting kind of antsy, so I think we're gonna take a break. And we're gonna be back in just a couple of minutes, and then we're gonna come right back and be hitting it, talking about railguns. I think railguns are a fantastic weapon, and we're gonna see what the Navy's doing with theirs just after this short break. We'll be right back, y'all.
WTF Nation Radio. WTF Nation Radio.
Nobody said we had to relate. At the end, it's over. I'm finally sober.